How did you hear about the Barbados Sports Club?
Okay, so I actually was living here for about maybe 6 years or so before I actually heard about the Barbados Sports Club. And I ran into this the Don Carter, who also went to Commermere. He went to Commermere at the same time as I did, and he was with Steve Jackman. And I said to him, well, I've been here for a while now, and like, where do the Bajans hang out? So he told me that that is the Barbados Sports Club, and they play soccer, and they play down they practice down Vaughan Road, and it's usually on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I should come down there sometime. So yeah, so that was my introduction to the Barbados Sports Club. That was probably, I would say, maybe 35 years ago. I think that was probably around 1990, around that time. I I I at first, I think I had actually gone to a picnic with the Barbados Sports Club had a Father's Day picnic. I think I had gone to that picnic. I think that was probably the year after, because I didn't immediately go and hang around the soccer. So I think I actually had actually gone to a picnic first, um, and then after that, I is when I started to hang around um, the soccer itself. Yeah, and I'm not too sure how far they went in terms of recruiting girls, women to play. But I thought that at one time they did have a netball team, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. Yeah, I would say pretty much. When you're uh, and this, I guess this happens to all immigrants, right? When you immigrate to the country, you tend to seek out people who are of a similar background or even from the same country. So it was refreshing to be able to um, meet guys who came from the same, because they start, you can relate to people, with similar backgrounds, similar experiences, so it's easy to fit in, easy to relate to those to the guys. Well, even before I became president, I became the secretary of the club. I think that was probably in the late 90s. Don't remember the exact year. But I was secretary, I think, for maybe about 2 3 years, and then elections time came up to elect a new president, and a new committee, and I decided I by then I knew much more. I knew more people in the club. I was closer to more people in the club, so I think that was the right time for me to run to be president. And I really wanted to see. I really wanted to see. I think I wanted to make sure that the club lived on. Um, and even though it doesn't really function now, um, but that was one of the reasons why I ran for president. Yeah, so being secretary, the main thing that I did was to make sure that I got information out to members. So I remember having a list. Back in those days, it was just phone calls. So I had a list of with phone numbers for every member of the club, even some of people who were no longer around, were not no longer coming around the club, um, but they were still somehow on the edges of the club, and some of those people I didn't know, um, and so I had that list where I would connect with people, call people, remind people of 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 events that's happening, um, and also during council meetings, um, I would of course take the notes, and be responsible for making sure that the notes are presented then at the following meeting, and that the notes were approved by the council, by the committee. Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember
They
who
were
was
elected, right?
yeah, I can't remember who was the president at the time that it was secretary, but but I think it was just to make sure there always had to be that connection, right? And just to make sure that and again the main focus of the club was soccer,
Mm.
and then of course we had dances and that kind of stuff, right? But I think the main thing was to make sure that we stayed connected, like the members of the committee, of the council stayed connected, so that they could plan events and make sure that people got registered for soccer, and remember those little books that we used to have, those
It was a member
books with,
book or something.
yeah, the books when you registered to play soccer,
Right.
with used to have your picture in it, and
For the for the
and right,
for the leagues.
right, for for the league, and so making sure that those that I remember collecting some of those and taking them to um it was this place on close to Centennial Park, to
Right.
have them, to have them renewed. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm sure that when I would probably think that when they started, they just got together maybe just to to play soccer. But I think in order to really, I think it became obviously at some point, in order to make sure that uh, that the club functioned properly, you have to have elected officers.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think was the besides soccer? What do you think the importance of this club was, especially for Barbadians living in Canada, or we would say Toronto, because Canada is pretty
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
But the Barbados Sports Club still had many members from outside of Barbados, right? Who were
Right.
from different islands and even
Right.
different places.
Right.
But what do you think the real role was besides soccer?
I think one of the things that happened with the club is that we had a connection um, to other Barbadians beyond soccer. Um, and a good example would be many of the guys, their wives or girlfriends, and even as their kids got older, their kids, even though were not necessarily members of the club, they came to soccer games, they came to events, and so the soccer club kind of reached beyond just men or who were looking guys who were looking to play soccer.
Hmm. Do you think that over the years that as a club, as a body, we fell short of what the intended purpose was supposed to be for?
Yeah, I think one of the problems is that we all age, right, and the the membership obviously of the club started to get older. I remember at one point I was trying to encourage um, the members of the club to try to look at other sports or other activities that we could engage in, because soccer is a young man's sport,
Right.
right? And
Correct.
once you get to a certain age, your mind might tell you that you're still capable of playing, but your body says something different, right? So um, so I think that we I think we didn't do that. I think we didn't look at different things that we could do, and I think that that's probably one of the reasons.
Mhm.
I can't say for sure, but I think that that's probably one of the reasons why the club no longer exists. And then we didn't have that. It doesn't seem as if we had an influx of young Barbadians coming up. Um, and our kids who were born here weren't necessarily interested in making sure that the club continued to exist. And I don't know if that's because it was we focus mostly on one group of people, one group from one nationality, even though at times we did have soccer players from St. Lucia and Jamaica, Trinidad, um, um, even Croatia. I think at one time we had a guy from Croatia. Um, but I think that we focus on a small group, and that's that a group of Barbadians, and I think we probably should have looked at expanding and bringing in younger people, especially from other parts of the Caribbean, or even younger people who were born here.
During my time when I was playing football for the Barbados Sports Club, I always had a pride in playing for them because I
Yeah,
started playing from a teenager,
yeah,
right? But as I grew older, I realized that it seems like if there were other parts of our society that
hmm,
kind of looked down on us.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
wonder if there was a stigma about
hmm,
us
hmm,
during that time that kind of repelled people from
hmm.
coming towards the Barbados Sports Club. And I don't know
Yeah.
but for sure, but you know,
Possibly. I mean, we were in a sense a grassroots organization, right? Um, we were who we are, right? Um, we didn't pretend to be bougie or anything like that. We were just ourselves, and we 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 acted in the same way that many Bajans act back home in Barbados after work when they go to hang out with their friends. Um, so and there's some, and you're right. I think there's some people from certain um, elements within the Barbadian community who tend to look down on that those kinds of activities, and and maybe that's why we didn't attract other people. Maybe that's one of the reasons why you could explain the demise of the club in that way.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I one of the things that I mentioned earlier on was the fact that I had gone to this sports club Father's Day picnic, and I think that those Father's Day picnic, it was more than just the members of the sports club.
mhm.
You know, it was more than just the guys. It was guys who came with their wives, girlfriends, whatever, and their kids, and I think that we all age, and I think that the aging was a big part of people started to we age, and we started to have interest in different things, and some of us probably lost interest in soccer um, when we realized that we were at an age where we couldn't play anymore, or players played at the same level that we used to play before. Um, but you know, for me, I've always felt there was always a sadness I felt um, when I saw that the club was kind of declining, that it was going in that direction where I know we weren't going to have a club anymore.
Wow.
But one of the good things, even though there's no club anymore, um, there's still some lasting relationships that happen because of the club. Um, I know a lot more people because of the club. I might not interact with them or talk to them on a regular basis, but you know that when you do run into them, it's like it's like you it's like you never stop really talking to each other. It's
Yeah.
like that relationship I think was so strong, or the bond was so strong that that you felt as if you were 20, 25 again, and still playing soccer and hanging around after the soccer game was over.
Right. Well, I know for me, um, being a member of the Barbados Sports Club, it first of all kept me out of trouble
Yeah,
because in my neighborhood where I was, rather than me hanging out in that area, I would after school, come home, get something to eat, and then I'll get ready to go to practice.
yeah,
And practice was done at Vaughan,
yeah,
which when I first came around, those guys told me they were training there for 30 years,
yeah,
and then suddenly we relocated
yeah,
somewhere else.
yeah,
So I think around that time you could slowly see momentum kind of shifting.
yeah.
Um,
Even that in itself, moving from Vaughan Road to to another area to practice, that in itself was a shift, right? And I think that um, we were so accustomed to Vaughan Road that I don't think that we really. I know that I was one of those people who really didn't want to move from Vaughan Road. That Vaughan Road felt like home.
yeah, I agree
Yeah,
because I mean, to be honest, Eglinton is a major hub for a lot of
yeah,
Caribbean people,
yeah.
and you know you can easily access it from the subway.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel
Yeah,
like suburbs,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
no matter where you were, unless you were living in the suburbs, I
yeah,
mean, you could get there and just hang. If you
yeah,
worked in the city, you could
yeah,
just
yeah,
leave work and come and just hang
yeah,
and play a soccer or watch or talk or whatever.
yeah,
Because if you remember, most majority of the people who came on Tuesdays and Thursdays were people just coming and talking on the side.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it was more than just a sports club with guys playing soccer. It was it was like a social club. It was like a family,
Right.
right? Again, it was like being back home.
Mhm.
A place where you could go and you could interact with people who had similar life experiences as you. Um, and which is something that I think that all immigrants do, right? We seek out people who come from the same country, because you there's that connection.
Do you think we'll ever see another Barbados Sports Club, or do you think that this is it? It's done.
Yeah, I think I maybe there was a need for the club at that time, for the time that it existed. I'm not sure if there's a need for it now.
Hmm.
Um, I think that I think that there's like I personally don't know a lot of young people who are coming from Barbados.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, maybe there are some. I don't know, but I know for people back in the day, um, there always seemed to be people coming in the 70s and the 80s, in the early 90s, and the Barbados Sports Club provided that opportunity, that place where they can connect with fellow Barbadians.
So I mean, it started with sports, and which makes me wonder: are young people, still playing a lot of sports, or they're not playing a lot of sports?
Yeah,
Because that's the interesting part.
yeah,
Do those people want to just show up and play for fun, Are they looking more for money? Is not inspiring enough? Is
Yeah.
not motivating? Is it no need to play sports anymore? There's no
Yeah.
need to be involved.
Well, I think we have to keep in mind too that we know that young people spend a lot of time in front of the screen, right? Back then there wasn't,
No cell phones.
there was no cell phones, there was no Facebook, no Instagram, no social, no kind of social media, and it was outdoors. I mean, again, I think it has a lot to do with how you grew up. In Barbados, we grew up and we grew up outside of the house. We didn't spend our days inside the house sitting down um, in front of a screen. We spend a lot of time outside, and that the Barbados Sports Club provided that opportunity. I think for many of the young people now, they tend to, from what I know, from what I see, tend to spend a lot more time inside. Again, social media, as doing video games, etc. We didn't have those things back then.
Wow. I agree. I agree, but it's just really it's too revealing
Yeah,
to know that that when you start talking, you start realizing you're right. We used to spend a lot of time. We actually couldn't wait to get outside.
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, yeah,
if it's work or school, we couldn't wait.
yeah.
Now it's different. But I saw something changing over the years where I think the earlier members probably paid fees and it was okay. But I saw over the years we kind of struggled for fees,
Mm-hmm.
and fees was starting to feel like it's pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I believe,
Yeah.
based on nothing happened. I mean, the club never grew in success.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe from a president point of view, you could
Yeah.
tell me when members paid fees, what were done with fees, and was there a plan of growing with
Yeah.
these fees or with the
Well,
events, the parties and stuff?
yeah. Well, fees was usually used to support soccer, right? But I don't think that fees in of itself would have been enough to um, support the soccer for that year. Um, but I don't think it was enough if we were looking to, um, in terms of having like a financial, a war chest of money or whatever. I don't think that fees would have been
Enough.
sufficient, right? So I think that organizations like would have to engage in other activities, other fundraising activities. I mean, we did do a little bit of that, but with the couple dances we had every year, but wasn't enough to really sustain the club. Like fees covered, as I said, the soccer and the you know and the cost of the jerseys, that kind of stuff.
Would you say that we forgot our roots? We outgrow our roots, and that could be a major contributor.
I don't know. I go back to the age thing. I think it's all about aging. I think one of the other things too that happened is that um, Vaughan Road was, when we were at Vaughan Road was a central area. It was a central location, and it was easy to get to, and I think a lot of people didn't necessarily live in the immediate vicinity of Vaughan Road, but they live close enough um, to be able to get there. I think at one point then people started moving out, and people moved to places like Ajax and Markham and even Brampton, right? And I think that also made it a little bit more challenging for people to be coming back into the city
Right.
of Toronto.
I know during my time, people live further away. And I even heard stories of guys who were around from the 70s and they would live close to Vaughan Road.
Mhm.
But as they got married and so forth, when they moved further away, they
Yeah.
still found themselves
Yeah.
back there, and it wasn't a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Like they did that
Yeah.
religiously for many, many,
Yeah.
many years. You know, even though
Yeah.
they lived in Markham and places like that, they would still come back every Tuesday, Thursday, no problem.
Yeah, yeah, and you're right. Some people, those people who were, diehard supporters of the club, but I guess there are always a few people or some people who aren't as committed, if that's the right word, and they're um, they're s- started to come around less and less, and yeah, yeah. But I mean, I still think that even though, again, we don't have the club, there's still that bond that exists. I know that we ever so often try to get together. We don't get big crowds, but um, we did have a get together in the park. I think we had one. The last one we had was last year. I believe it was Labor Day, and
I missed that.
and
I was in Ohio.
oh, okay, yeah, I think it was Labor Day, and I think there were probably about 20 people or so,
Wow.
and there were even a couple of guys there that I didn't know.
Were they
That
old or were they young?
they were older guys,
Okay.
that obviously were members of the club before, but by the time I came around, they had already probably moved on. I think I look at some of the people who are members of the sports club. Um, Two people come to mind who now run their own soccer academies. I call them soccer academies, um, and I think that maybe that is the way that Barbados Sports Club should have gone. Um, you know, uh, Jeff Hackett, for example, right? He has his global satellite soccer academy, and seemed to be doing fantastic stuff, right? Um, and that was his way of still being involved in soccer. Steve Jackman, he also has again, I call it an academy, and and he works with teenagers, and um, seems to be doing quite well, right? So I think that probably should have been the way that the Barbados Sports Club um, should have gone, and again, open the doors to anyone, not necessarily just be looking at people who have parents or grandparents or who are themselves from Barbados. Like, open the doors to anyone who wanted, or who any young person who's wanted to play soccer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll leave it like that.
Yeah.
All right.